The snow fell like forgotten prayers outside the diner window, and Sarah Mitchell stood behind the counter at midnight on Christmas Eve, counting the hours until she could finally give up. Not just on this shift, not just on this job, but on everything. The eviction notice folded in her apron pocket felt heavier than the tray of dirty dishes in her hands, and at 32 years old, with a 6-year-old daughter sleeping fitfully in their car, parked behind the building, Sarah had run out of miracles to hope for. She had always believed that hard work would be enough, that showing up every single day, smiling through the exhaustion, being kind, even when customers were cruel, would somehow lead to something better. But tonight, as she watched the last few stragglers finish their coffee, Sarah understood that sometimes life doesn't reward the faithful. Sometimes it just breaks them down, piece by piece, until there's nothing left but the decision to surrender. If you believe in the power of kindness, in second chances, and in the magic that can happen when strangers become angels, please hit that like button, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, share this story with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to our channel, because what happened next in Sarah's life proves that miracles are real, and they often arrive when we least expect them. The diner had been her refuge for 3 years, ever since her husband died in a construction accident, leaving behind nothing but debts and dreams unfulfilled. She had fought so hard to keep their small apartment, to give her daughter, Emma, a stable home, to maintain the illusion that everything would be okay. But medical bills from Emma's asthma treatments had piled up like snowdrifts, and Sarah's wages barely covered food, let alone rent. 2 months ago, her landlord had stopped accepting promises. Last week, he delivered the final notice: vacate by December 26th or face forcible removal. Sarah had been sleeping in her 15-year-old sedan with Emma for 3 nights now, parking in different spots each evening to avoid suspicion, using the diner's bathroom to wash up before her shifts. Emma thought it was an adventure, camping under the stars, and Sarah's heart shattered a little more each time her daughter smiled about their special Christmas sleepover in the car. Tonight was supposed to be different. Tonight, Sarah had planned to use her tip money to buy Emma just one small present, something to unwrap on Christmas morning, something to make her believe that Santa hadn't forgotten them. But it had been a brutally slow night. The storm had kept most people home with their families, where they belonged, and Sarah's tip jar held exactly $43.17. Not enough for a gift, not enough for gas to drive somewhere warmer, not enough for anything that mattered. The bell above the door chimed, and Sarah looked up to see 4 people entering, shaking snow from their coats. A family, she noted, an older couple with their adult son and daughter-in-law, all dressed nicely despite the late hour. They chose the corner booth, the one by the window with the slightly torn vinyl that Sarah had asked her manager to replace a dozen times, and she grabbed menus with hands that trembled from more than just cold. As she approached their table, Sarah forced her practiced smile into place, the one that said everything was fine, that she wasn't dying inside, that she was just a regular waitress having a regular night. But the older woman looked at her with such sudden, piercing kindness that Sarah almost dropped the menus. It was the look of someone who could see straight through all the armor, all the pretending, directly into the bruised and bleeding heart beneath. The family ordered simply coffee and pie, mostly making small talk about the storm and the beauty of Christmas Eve, despite the cold. Sarah moved through the motions mechanically, brewing fresh coffee, cutting generous slices of apple pie, refilling water glasses without being asked. She tried not to think about Emma alone in the car, bundled under every blanket Sarah owned, or about the fact that after tonight, she had no idea what came next. The local shelter had no beds available until after New Year's, and Sarah's parents had passed away years ago. She had never felt more alone, more completely defeated, than she did in that moment. When she brought the check, the older man smiled at her gently and asked if she had family nearby. The question, innocent and well-meant, nearly broke her composure entirely. Sarah heard herself saying that yes, she had a daughter, that they were doing just fine, that Christmas was going to be wonderful. The lies tasted like ash in her mouth, but what else could she say? That she was homeless, that she was failing the one person who depended on her most, that this was probably her last shift because she couldn't keep doing this anymore. The family left shortly after, bundling back into their coats and wishing her a Merry Christmas with such genuine warmth that tears sprang to Sarah's eyes the moment they turned away. She waited until the door closed behind them before allowing herself to cry, just for a moment, just enough to release some of the pressure building in her chest, like a scream that would never be heard. Then she walked to their table to clear it, and her entire world stopped. Beneath the check, weighted down by the salt shaker, was a stack of bills. Sarah's hand shook as she picked them up, certain she was hallucinating, that exhaustion and despair had finally pushed her over the edge into madness. But the money was real. 20 $100 bills, crisp and new, along with a note, written on a napkin in careful handwriting that said, "We see you. We see how hard you're fighting. You are not alone. Merry Christmas, Sarah. Your shift is over, but your new beginning starts now." $20,000. $20,000 in cash, left on a diner table by strangers who had somehow known her name, who had looked past her smile and seen her struggle, who had decided that one waitress they would never see again deserved to be saved. Sarah collapsed into the booth, clutching the money to her chest, sobbing so hard that her manager came running from the kitchen thinking she'd been hurt. And she had been hurt so deeply and for so long, but now, impossibly, she was being healed by the most profound act of kindness she had ever experienced. She thought about Emma in the car, about how she could get them a hotel room tonight, a real room with heat and soft beds. She thought about the eviction notice that no longer mattered, about the security deposits she could pay, about the medical bills she could finally clear. But more than any of that, she thought about the fact that 4 strangers had looked at her and decided she was worth saving, that her life and her daughter's life mattered enough to change, that giving up was no longer the only option. Before we finish Sarah's story, if this moment touched your heart, if you believe in the power of human kindness, please leave a comment below. Tell us about a time someone showed you unexpected compassion, or share what you would do if you could change someone's life today. And type believe in the comments if you think there are still good people in this world. Sarah worked her shift until closing, not because she had to anymore, but because she wanted to finish what she'd started. She cleaned every table, wiped down every surface, and left the diner spotless for whoever would work Christmas Day. Before she left, she folded $500 into an envelope and left it in the tip jar for the morning crew. A fragment of the miracle passed forward, because that's what you do when you've been saved. You save someone else. Outside, the snow had stopped, and the sky was clearing to reveal stars so bright they looked like promises scattered across velvet. Sarah walked to her car, where Emma slept peacefully, completely unaware that their lives had just been transformed, and she whispered a prayer of gratitude to whoever might be listening, to whatever force in the universe had sent 4 angels disguised as customers into a lonely diner on Christmas Eve. The next morning, Sarah checked into a modest hotel, let Emma jump on the bed and squeal with delight at having a television and a real bathroom. She bought her daughter the dollhouse she'd been wanting, and they spent Christmas Day building dreams together, both the miniature kind and the impossible kind that somehow become real. Within a week, Sarah had found a new apartment, paid 3 months' rent in advance, and enrolled in community college courses to finish her nursing degree, the dream she'd abandoned when she got married at 19. But more than the money, more than the security or the new opportunities, what changed Sarah most was the understanding that she had never been invisible, that her struggle had been seen, her worth recognized, her humanity honored by strangers who owed her nothing but gave her everything. She carried that knowledge like a torch through every challenge that followed, and whenever life got hard again, and it did, because that's what life does, she remembered the Christmas Eve she almost gave up and the people who refused to let her fall. Years later, Sarah became a nurse, working night shifts at the hospital, caring for patients that others overlooked, seeing the invisible ones the way she had once been seen. And every Christmas Eve, she went to diners and coffee shops looking for waitresses with tired eyes and forced smiles, leaving tips that changed lives, passing forward the miracle that had saved her own. Because kindness isn't magic, it's a choice. And sometimes that choice transforms not just one life, but ripples outward into countless others, creating a world where no one has to face their darkest moment alone. Sarah never found out who that family was, never learned their names or why they chose her, but it didn't matter. What mattered was that they showed up, that they looked, that they cared, and that their compassion proved what Sarah now knew with absolute certainty. We are all connected, we all matter, and sometimes the smallest act of kindness becomes the greatest gift anyone could ever receive. The story of one waitress and 4 strangers became Sarah's truth, that love appears in unexpected forms, that angels sometimes wear winter coats, and that the tip that changed everything wasn't really about money at all. It was about being seen, being valued, and being reminded that no matter how dark the night, morning always comes.